a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day, that's for sure. Easter is everywhere. Now, Easter has always baffled me just a little bit. I never really understood the holiday. I get the religious implications and the significance, but as far as the traditions go, the symbolism, the bunny being the big one, right? We have this big bunny who comes into your house, very much like Santa Claus, but he's not a man. He's a man/bunny. I mean, he's not a little thing, right? He's a full-size bunny, is he not? I met him once when I was a kid at my local Galleria, but I really didn't have a good chance to have a discussion with him. And in fact, my brothers always sort of ruined the holiday for me because they painted a portrait in my mind of the Easter Bunny not being this friendly, fluffy, pink creature of the forest, as much as they painted him as this dark, mysterious figure that would come into your house in the middle of the night and leave you mysterious prizes. My brother scared the heck out of me. So we have a lot to go over. We have Easter goodies right here. We have Yankee Candle's 2017 Easter fragrances. I also picked up the fragrances in the tart form. And if you haven't seen my Aroma Prison episode, I'll put the link in the description below. It'll help illustrate the procedure that I'm going to perform. But summing it up real quick, essentially what I'm going to do is melt these tarts inside of these mason jars. So not only will we be able to evaluate the candles cold, but we'll also be able to evaluate the candles in their airborne or volatilized state as well. And let's jump right into it. So first on the list is going to be jelly beans. Now, it's important to note that this is not a brand new candle. This has been around for some years. Again, I haven't ever reviewed this candle, and because we're doing an Easter themed video here, why would we not break this out and give it a sniff? Here we go. Okay, so 3 things. We come to expect sweetness from jelly beans. I mean, that's just a given. And there is most certainly a sweetness. 2, we don't necessarily come to expect tartness or sourness in jelly beans. At least I don't. I mean, in my childhood, in my youth, jelly beans really weren't tart. They were just sweet, gummy candies. And this is definitely very tart. So you do have this sweet and sour contrast. And number 3, this definitively smells like jelly beans. It's as if we're sticking our nose in a bowl of jelly beans. My mind goes to, how do they do this? How do they create this illusion? So my approach is to close my eyes, smell this, put jelly bean out of my mind, and go through that Rolodex of candies in my mind and try to see if I can think of any other candies that this reminds me of. And then after a while, I start to pick up on things like gumdrops, dots, jujubes, juji fruit, Twizzlers, Swedish fish, and Jello. Now, I know Jello is not a candy, but hear me out. Well, what do those candies have in common? They all contain gelatin, and some of them contain pectin. Gelatin and pectin are 2 gelling agents that are used in foods and candies all of the time. And yes, they do have a smell. It's what gives those gummy candies that specific smell. That is the trick. That is the illusion. That is what's creating that authentic jelly bean aroma. And like I said, this does have a pretty significant tart sour smell to it. So once again, close my eyes, go through that Rolodex of candy images. What else does this smell like? Then I start to think about candies like Starburst, Smarties, Sweet Tarts, Sour Patch Kids, Pixie Sticks. What do all of those candies have in common? Citric acid, and some of them ascorbic acid as well. These are 2 naturally occurring substances in fruits and vegetables, especially, and you guessed it, citrus fruit. Tartness contrasted by that gelatinous gummy candy aroma. A wonderful contrast of sweet and sour. And if you ask me to classify the tart notes in this candle, I would say things like black cherry, really tart raspberry, blackberry, even this fruit cocktail of Hawaiian punch. And on the sweeter side, I would say this smells like lemon dots and cherry Twizzlers. Not strawberry, cherry Twizzlers. I'm perceiving a little bit of vanilla, and what that does is it mimics the flavor and the aromatics of that crystallized sugar, shiny outer shell. And the culmination of all of these notes is going to be a very successful jelly bean aroma. We just smelled it cold, but now it's time to smell it in its volatilized, melted state. Alright, so there it is. We have 5 grams of melted jelly beans. Let's give this a sniff. Saltwater taffy, like sour berry Laffy Taffy. The intensity of this candle is pretty high. This fragrance will carry quite a distance in your living space. So the sweet notes and the tart notes are really sparkling now that they've had a chance to volatilize. All right, very cool. So 1 candle down, 2 to go. And before we do that, what I have here is a bag of Gimbel's fine candies. What I thought I would do is get 1 of each flavor and just throw them in my mouth. And then I saw this, 41 flavors. I'm not gonna pop 41 jelly beans in my mouth, guys. I'm sorry, but I will try them. That's a good amount, right? There's a lot of white ones, though. Are we ready? Here we go. This is actually really good. I've never had these before. Gimbel's fine candies. I think I might have got 1 butter popcorn, but it totally works. It's an explosion of complexity. Contrasting flavors, tart, sweet, and creamy. All right, so next on the list is going to be, there it is, Peeps by Yankee Candle. So also a fragrance that's been around for some time, but you will notice that we're dealing with a whole new look. We got, of course, the new label, but also a new photograph. They've dropped the name Marshmallow Chicks and just stuck with the confection name Peeps. And they've also changed the color of the wax from yellow to pink, and right there featured is actually the bunny peep, not the chick. Are the bunnies more popular these days? But I'll be honest with you, I actually haven't had a peep in a very long time. On some years I'll buy them just for decoration, but I never open them up and eat them. So I bought 2 packages. We got the classic yellow chicks, and we have the blue bunnies. I need a frame of reference. I want to see precisely what they taste like, because I can't remember. I don't even know what's inside. Is it all just marshmallow? Those look like chocolate eyeballs. Very shiny, glittery, crystallized sugar. But Mr. Bunny has to be eaten. In the mouth it goes. What's in these things? Sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, yellow number 5. This is the chicks. Potassium sorbate, natural flavors, and carne uba wax. Carne uba. Very gooey marshmallow texture. And now that I have a clearer frame of reference, there's nothing else to do than to jump into this Peeps candle. Let's give this one a shot, shall we? This release, this candle seems to have a higher intensity of aroma. It's throwing off a lot more aromatics than I remember. I could be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I've smelled this candle. But yeah, I mean, this smells really intense. All right, so let's talk about the given. Marshmallow and cane sugar. Do I smell it? Yes, I do. But as we know, cane sugar and marshmallow, it's a very subtle smell. It's not usually a massive aroma. And yeah, since marshmallow and cane sugar is not an incredibly dynamic smell, you're gonna find that Yankee Candle has taken some liberties here, fortified this fragrance with some sweeter and savory notes that you wouldn't actually smell if you put your nose up against one of these confections. This is going to be enhanced with some additional ingredients. Think of vanilla frosting or vanilla icing, buttercream, which is really bringing a savory approach to this candle. Savory in the form of butter, but also a little bit of saltiness. You get a little bit of grated coconut, malted milk. Malt. If you're unfamiliar with malted milk or malt, what it smells like, what it's used in, I am going to talk about malt in depth in an episode coming up very shortly. So I won't go into in depth about malt right now. But for now, just think of that classic 50s diner malted milkshake, like Uma Thurman's milkshake from Pulp Fiction. And another descriptor that I used not too long ago, vanilla Tootsie Rolls. Vanilla Tootsie Rolls really give chocolate Tootsie Rolls a run for their money in regards to deliciousness. Cotton candy or candy floss, spun sugar, or even rock candy. I'm looking for any fruit aromatics in here, and I'm just not getting any. But the Peeps didn't have any fruitiness either, so I guess that makes sense. Despite the new look, the new name, the new color, very similar to what I remember, and perhaps the intensity is a bit higher than previous years, but don't quote me on that. Our palates, our noses, they love contrasting aromas and flavors. This one is definitely that contrast of sweetness and tartness, where this one is going to be the classic sweet and savory. All right, now, so let's break out the mason jar and see how this aroma, this fragrance performs when melted. Peeps. It's kind of already solidified on me, but that's okay. Whether it's solidified or not, those oils have still become airborne. So this is really interesting. Those savory notes, buttercream, vanilla frosting, are really shining. But something I'm picking up on that I wasn't getting on the candle cold is a little bit of this lemon pound cake, lemon loaf. This candle really is like a peep cake. So based on this candle's reputation, it's always had a pretty good carry. Notice I'm not using the word throw. We're going to talk about that in a future episode. And the intensity is pretty strong. This is a solid medium plus. Bam. Peeps. All right, so one more to go. So finally we have a new fragrance for 2017. This one entitled Happy Spring. And as we can see on the label, with a little bit of the green leafage, all in front of a baby blue sky. So I do want to remind you that I have not experienced this candle before. These I've smelled in previous years. So there's nothing left to do but to jump right into it. Let's give this one a sniff. Wow. All right. So we see tulips on the label, and guess what? This smells like tulips. As we all probably know, tulips are fragrant, and what makes them sort of unique is that if you smell certain tulips, they'll have a stone fruit quality to them. Think apricot, peaches, nectarines. So what I think Yankee Candle has done here is manipulated the tulip aromatic by utilizing many different ingredients, because I'm getting several floral notes and I am getting that fruity note, specifically the nectarine. But on the floral side to this, I have to mention dandelion. And I'm not just talking about the dandelion petals or even just the stems. Inside of the stems is that milky substance, or dandelion milk. There's that very powerful, in-your-face dandelion aroma. And if there's any aroma that's going to remind you of spring, it's certainly dandelion. I'm picking up on a very pungent gardenia, a very soft lilac, and a very clean rose petal, and also a fresh, clean, floral white musk. And when I say musk or muskiness in this case, I'm not talking about masculine muskiness. I'm talking about more of what we would find in lotion-based products, or just think of baby powder. So let's stop right there for a second. We said fruitiness of nectarine, we said florals, and now I'm saying a floral clean musk. I can't tell you how many women's perfumes are going to have those three components. So with that said, I can imagine a lot of people smelling this candle and saying, wow, this smells like women's perfume, or like the perfume department at Macy's. And what would this smell of spring be without green? Fresh, sun-kissed, healthy, long braids of grass, not freshly cut grass. Any of you wheatgrass drinkers out there will know exactly what I mean. This is filled with a chlorophyll green aroma. And what's going to enhance that is a little bit of mossiness. Springtime, April showers. And I'm not going to suggest that the next things that I'm going to say are actually in this candle, but what this is making me think of: some spicy greens. Think of arugula, endive. Could even say like baby spinach. There's a vegetal component here too, in the form of sugar snap peas, because there is a little bit of sweetness to it. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this is going to be a very popular candle. I think this is going to make a lot of folks happy, especially if your favorite season of the year is spring. Picture this, if you will. You know that day out of the year, it only happens once in the entire year, but you walk outside and you take a look around and there's just something different in the air. You know, the grass is greener, the sun is warmer, the saturated soil's throwing up these beautiful aromatics. The ground beneath your feet is actually warming up your toes, radiating all of that warmth. And then a gust of wind comes, swirls around, picks up all of those fragrances, and then it just cascades up against your nostrils. And then you say to yourself, ah, spring is here. Well, if you love that moment and you want to bottle that moment and recreate that moment anytime you want and as frequently as you want, this candle is going to help make that happen, because this smells like the very early stages of spring. With all of that wonderful, pleasant stuff that I just said about this candle, I want you to keep in mind that if you have a bad association with the spring, if you are burdened by the fresh grass and the pollen and the flowers here and here, if your sinuses can't take it and you're highly allergic, I can almost guarantee you this is not going to be a candle for you. So if you're not a fan of the spring, this is probably the last thing you're going to want to burn. However, if spring is your favorite season out of the year, this has the potential to be one of your favorites. And I'm projecting that this is going to be a very popular fragrance for Yankee Candle. Tart mason jar. Let's get this melted. Happy spring. I said nectarine before, and I still get that, but I'm getting a definitive lemon component, a very clean lemon zest. What I call the clean factor, it's giving it that lemon pledge, clean scent. It's almost mimicking lemongrass. But the thing to really mention is the intensity. Borderline high intensity. I have a feeling this one is gonna have a pretty bold presence in your living space. No! Alright, so there it is, folks. Yankee Candle's 3 fragrances for Easter 2017. If any of my descriptions appeal to you, I highly recommend you go to your local Yankee Candle store and check them out for yourself. As always, I want to thank you folks for sticking with me, watching me, leaving wonderful feedback, comments, throwing so much positivity in my direction. I can't thank you enough. Please remember, if you want to help me out, thumbs up if you like the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, please think about doing that. I want to really see this audience grow and expand. Why? Because as this audience grows, we're going to have more credibility. We want to get to the nitty-gritty, really start asking questions, seeing if we can schedule interviews with the proprietors of candle companies. And the bigger this circle of candle enthusiasts gets, the more entry we're going to receive upon knocking on those doors. And one more thing, we have our segment called Guess the Disney Princess Over My Shoulder. I gotta stand up for a second. All right, so can anybody tell me what Disney princess we're looking at right there? If you know, put that in the comments down below. Alright, so that's it for me, folks. Thanks for watching. I have a lot of content that's currently being edited that's going to be posted in the near future, so keep your eyes open for that. And I'll see you guys real soon.